Hello, this is Joe Vizio again. I figured I am on my way to work and I try and make a little video. As I always try and say, I don't know that anyone's actually going to be watching this. If you do watch it, I hope it helps you out, just like me watching other people's stories has helped me out significantly. If not, the whole purpose of me doing this is for playback and my own use. Sometimes it is helpful to be able to hear these stories, even if it is your own, so that you can start identifying yourself as being human. I am 42 years old. I am a narcissistic abuse survivor, and I am doing this to work on my recovery. I spent quite some time not even really recognizing that something may be wrong. It was always doing something like this was a sign of me just feeling sorry for myself. This is what was always beat into me by my father. Feelings didn't matter, my opinion didn't matter, I did not matter as a human being. And I grew up that way. Really had no kind of self-esteem during my teen years, my 20s, 30s. I cut off contact with my father at about 35 years old, I think it was. 36 years old. And the only time I've ever had any kind of contact with him since that was I had to say something to him one time because he had gone on to a friend of mine, like a childhood friend of mine's Facebook page, where my friend was saying something about us playing old 1980s arcade video games, and my father had to come onto his site and let everybody know how worthless I am because I live in the past. And I had to kind of set him straight on that. And he's blocked me, and there's no telling what he said and what he's done since then. Maybe he hasn't even said anything at all. Either way, my give a fuck has kind of been broken on that. So, I'm not really too awful worried about it anymore. I had times where it was hard to accept what was happening because I always thought that it was something that was my fault. Once I started doing no contact with him, I did no contact because I had just gotten tired of it. My attitude was that I was never going to do anything right in his eyes. So rather than just keep letting him put me down, that I was just going to break contact with him. And I've since realized, very recently, that this wasn't my fault. That I'm not feeling sorry for myself. That I have a legitimate bitch about what happened. I have a legitimate bitch about how I was treated and what are some of the things that has happened in my childhood, and you know, there's a lot of people out there like me that have the same kind of complaints, that have had some of the same things happen to them. And you know, I think we're all kind of tired of it. We're kind of all, you know, just, there was nothing that made him better than me. Nothing in the world. Because he has more money? Well, he grew up at a time where there was a hell of a lot more opportunity than what I had. Things were a lot cheaper. And you can't tell me that things were relative, because it wasn't. If you really look back and you look at the value of money versus the price of goods, people in my time are getting absolutely buried. So it's not relative. It is not relative at all. So he is not better than me by a long shot. But I was made to think that. Throughout some of the videos that I've made, I've tried to, you know, tell different stories about my mother, tell some stories about my father, just give some kind of insights into my life as to what's happening and why I am doing this. Why I am not just a whiny little bitch whose mommy and daddy didn't love him enough. You know, there's some real problems that have happened, and that I'm tired of taking the responsibility for it. I'm tired of bearing the load on my shoulders, thinking that the family breakup and separation and everything is my fault. Although if you were to talk to my father or my sister, I mean, I am just absolutely nuts. They pretty much have the whole family turned against me. Not that, you know, my family was really a close-knit family to begin with. I have mentioned in some of my videos that, you know, my sister was the firstborn, the golden child. Nobody was even really sure that I was my father's right from the get-go, because I was, you know, a blonde-hair baby in a family of dark-haired Italian people. So, you know, my father had gone out to California for a little while and came back, and my mom was pregnant. You know, I'm the spitting image of my father. My mother's not a whore. You know, we have the same voice, we have the same mannerisms, and a lot of that I am trying to deprogram myself so that I can make sure that I am not doing the same abusive type behaviors to my family. So I'll go ahead in and I'll tell a story or two. You know, we'll get into the meat of my father. And, you know, I don't remember everything. I think doing this sometimes brings back memories. So as I have those memories come back, you know, I'll just make a video about my father. But to do just a series about my father like I did my mother, it would really be, I mean, that would take a hypnotist, some psychotropic drugs, and you know, some pretty heavy duty counseling, because this is a ton of shit, man. So let me just go ahead and, you know, just jump right into a story. There was this time where you know, my father had his girlfriend and her two boys, who were, you know, around the same age as me, both younger, but, you know, one younger than me by like a year or two, and then the next one younger by like another year. So, you know, we were fairly close in age. And my sister, So there was 4 kids, and my father's girlfriend, who was actually considered like a stepmother, although they were never legally married. We were all going out to dinner. And usually, you know, my father, who always tried to uphold his image that he was just Mr. Joe Cool, he always liked to drive his Camaro. It was like an IROC Camaro, 1980s style, T-tops, you know, and he just didn't always look so cool with 4 pointed-headed kids sitting in the back of that motherfucker as he's trying to drive around. But on some family outings, we would take my father's girlfriend's car, which was like a Toyota or a Honda station wagon, one of the older kinds. So we were in that station wagon and we were going out to dinner. We were in Kissimmee, Florida, and we were heading up one of these back roads, Pleasant Hill and Bermuda, as we were coming from a little town called Point Siena, if anybody sees this and is familiar in that area. And, you know, the whole time we were driving, my father was driving, you know, we were kind of just, you know, taking jabs at each other, messing around. I mean, I had nicknames: Jigaboo Joe, Fagomatic, Dickhead. I mean, it was all, that part was done in fun, you know. It's not like he was, you know, trying to be mean to me at that point. You know, we were playing around. And I guess I had touched on something that, you know, he just really struck a nerve with him. You know, we were laughing and funning around and everything, and I said something to the effect, "Oh yeah, you scumbag." You know, just, I mean, I guess that can be, you know, pretty harsh, I guess. I didn't see it as harsh because, you know, me and my friends always kind of called each other that. I mean, didn't mean it. I definitely didn't mean it to him, though I do now. But, you know, no worse than being called Jigaboo Joe, which is, you know, kind of a racial slur. But, you know, I called him a scumbag. So, how did my father handle that? Did he say, "You know, son, that's kind of a harsh word, and I understand that we're playing around and all that, but I think that you went too far. I think you need to think about some of the things that you're saying, again, even though we're playing around, because, you know, some of them things just aren't proper to say." Nah, he didn't handle it that way. This motherfucker let go of the steering wheel while the car was moving, rolling down off of a bridge in Kissimmee, Florida, on Bermuda Ave, going into Kissimmee. If you know that area, you know the bridge I'm talking about. And he starts swinging on me. And he punched me in the lip, punched me in the head, and I'm trying to move. This is a station wagon. I'm going from the back seat all the way into the back, and I believe that his girlfriend, who I really don't think that she appreciated the way that he handled both me and my sister. She definitely wouldn't put up with it with her kids, and I think it became a deciding factor eventually in their relationship on how he handled me. As a matter of fact, I know that she told him about hitting my sister. And if he laid another hand on her, she was going to be out the freaking door. So he stopped really hitting my sister when she was about 13 years old. It was open game on me. I mean, he was hitting me closed fist since I was like 13 years old. But anyway, she kind of felt that we were in danger, seeing how he was like completely turned around in his seat trying to beat me as I'm running for my life, trying to head to the way back of the station wagon. So she just absolutely starts wailing on him with her book. She had this big, thick, hardcover book that she was reading. You know, she was a very smart woman. I always liked to read and stuff like that. And she just starts, beating on him and yelling at him until he just decided to stop going after me. And, you know, she's got control of the car, and, you know, he's turning around and, you know, regaining control. And then them two started fighting over it. And then it was Joey ruined the whole day. We're turning around and we're going home, and I don't give a fuck what you eat. You can eat a bowl of fucking cereal for all I care. So that is how quickly things like that could escalate. What happened? Well, he's a narcissist. I hit him right in the pride. I mean, honestly, I wasn't trying to do anything like that. You know, we were playing. You know, like I said, me and my friends, you know, we go for blood when we were fucking around with each other. It was always in good fun, but as this was my father... Yeah, that's right, dickhead. Fucking cocksucker. Sorry, I got a dickhead behind me. As this was my father, you know, I figured, you know, as long as I'm not using any of the big major cuss words or anything like that, you know, it's all in good fun, you know. It's not like I called him a fucker or a dickhead or a cocksucker or, you know, anything of that kind of nature. I wouldn't dare have called him like something like that. Be that in a fashion of playing around, or even in, you know, anger. I'd have never done something like that. But, you know, this really struck a chord with him, man. This was really some heavy duty shit, and he let me know. I got a million of them kind of just like that, man. This is just how this guy was. I'm not just, you know, crying over spilt milk or anything. This was, you know, daily occurrences, just sometimes showing things like basic human emotion, disappointment. You know, you tell your kid, you know, you can't go do this, or I don't want you to do that, and you know, a kid is going to show some kind of disappointment. You know, oh man. If I did that, back of the hand, man. Back of the hand. That is... Don't you look at me like that. Don't you talk to me like that. What do you do? You little motherfucker. It was constant, man. Constant. I would get smacked in the mouth and look at him surprised, and then get smacked in the mouth again because he thought I was giving him a dirty look because he smacked me in the mouth. Well, even if I was giving you a dirty fucking look, you just smacked me in the fucking mouth, man. And again, it's not like I got smacked in the mouth because I was cursing at him, or he told me, when we go home, you need to clean your room, or no, I'm not doing that. No, I never did anything like that. I never just openly defied him like that, verbally, never. I was beat. That was beat out of me at a young age. I wouldn't dare. I was deathly afraid of my father. You know, when I was in the younger grades in school, if somebody in school would have said something to me, them's fighting words. I mean, I was, the first person to just, it's how it was, man. I grew up and going to some pretty rough schools that, it was kill or be killed. Not literally, but, punch or be punched. So, that's how I kind of come up. But once I got in there, moved in with my father, that shit was over. I was so afraid of my father that fear actually spilled out into other places. There were times where I was called out to fight, and as much as I wanted to punch somebody in the mouth, I was more afraid of what would happen with my father, that I would just decline to fight. Look, guy, look, you win, you got the best of me, I'm just going to go over here and forget I said anything. Because, really, I was afraid of the wrath of my father, big time. There was one time that I had no choice. I was dating this girl, and this girl to this day is actually, I have to consider her one of my better friends. We lost contact over the years, but we've regained some contact, and we kind of went through some similar shit when we were kids. And anyway, when I was dating her, I had these boys that I guess really didn't like the fact that I was dating her, and they kept pushing me. And there was one time to where I did verbally stand up to a few of them, and they just left me alone. They went from wanting to kick my ass to high-fiving me in the hallway, but there was this one that just wouldn't back down. And one day after school, I was on school property. I walked up to him and I unloaded on him. And of course, as it was on school grounds, one of the administrators took me down to the office, and I got myself a suspension from school, which I was afraid, man. I was like planning my funeral, and I was so afraid that I didn't tell my father that I got suspended. Excuse me if there's extra noise going on in here now. I am in Florida, and as you've seen, we were in a nice sunny day, and now I'm going through a torrential monsoon, which is probably going to last about 10 minutes, and then it'll go back to being a nice, bright, sunny day. But anyway, I was so afraid that I didn't even tell him that I got suspended. I would get dressed, I would go out of the house, and I would wait for him to go to work, and then I would just come back to the house and wait my suspension out. But on like the third day of my suspension, as I was at the house, I don't know what happened, but he came home early. He had that Camaro IROC, so I heard the engine pulling up. And man, I grabbed my shit, and out the window I went. And as I was running across my backyard, and I ran across the neighbor's yard, the neighbor seen me. And him and my father were kind of friends. So I knew he was going to rat me out. And I went to the end of the street, and I seen that man standing in the driveway talking to my father. I was hoping that Jesus was just going to come and take me away. I was hoping that he was going to come down and say, Joe, I don't want you to go through this. So, I sucked it up, and I walked back to the house, and I told my father, I said, Dad, a few days ago I was suspended from school for fighting, and I was really afraid to tell you about it. And this is what I did, and I know I'm caught, and you know, I just figured I would come up here and I would fess up to you because I know you caught me. And he told me to get in my room and don't come out until he came home from work. And then he left. And when he came home, he came right into my room. And he told me, he says, you like to fight? He says, stand up. And I stood up, and he hit me so hard, I think I went cold for a couple seconds. Closed fist. I mean, right in the eye. And as I'm laying there, why I say I think I went cold for a couple seconds, is that I remember him kind of pulling me up by my shirt as I'm laying there limp on the bed and yelling, and I can remember the smell of his breath and the spit flying in my face. And then he left my room and just kind of left me laying there in the bed. And I'm not going to put up with this. And I grabbed some essentials, couple pairs of clothes, put them in a bag, and out the door I went. I went down to a friend's house, and I called my girlfriend, and she had told her mother what happened, which, you know, we knew but kind of didn't know, but, you know, her mother was the same way. And, you know, she told me to get over to this area out where they lived, and, you know, my friend's sister's boyfriend drove me out there, and, you know, I got in the car with them, with my girlfriend and her mother, and they were just kind of amazed because, you know, I was already swole up. We went over to her aunt's house, and she said, you know, wait a minute, I'll be right back. And she got back in the car, and then we drove over to this little convenience store, and there was a sheriff sitting there. And the sheriff had said something about, hey, I'm looking for this guy, you know, he ran away and he wants to go home. I guess I was so naive, I never put one and one together. And, oh, no, that's not me, and I forget what name. And so the cop drove off, and she went into the store, and she was sitting in there for a couple minutes, and meanwhile, you know, me and my girlfriend are sitting out in the car, and she's giving me the poor baby treatment, and, you know, of course, I was just eating that up. But, you know, a couple minutes later, that sheriff came back, and this time he said my name and took me out of the car and put me in the back of his car, in which, you know, my girlfriend's mother really did nothing more but just turn me in. And, took me down to the police station and called my father out to come get me. And, during that time, things really weren't so strict on the whole child abuse thing. There was no social workers or anything that came or nothing like that. It was, I did bad because I got suspended from school and didn't tell anybody. And, no, your father shouldn't hit you like that, but there's no law against you getting a spanking when you do wrong, and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And they threw me back. And, on the ride home, of course, he was telling me how he didn't appreciate that, but he was sorry that he hit me like that. We have to do something, and maybe going to see a counselor is going to see the right thing for me. So even from that point on, as long as I lived under his roof, when it came to fighting and defending myself, was kind of, fuck it, I'm going to, one way or the other, I'm going to get my ass kicked. So I'm going to go to hell anyway, so I might as well. And I really stopped taking people's shit from that point on. But yeah, man, that's not normal. And and I always come out and say that I wasn't no angel. But I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't a bad kid by a long shot. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't stealing from him. I wasn't standing in his house cursing him and disrupting his house or anything like that. I pretty much kept to myself, in my bedroom from the time that we moved to Florida, which was about 13 years old. We decided that the bed that I had slept in from the time I was 6 years old, I had the same fucking bed. We decided that we were going to throw that in the trash. And when we got down to Florida, as he was in the hotel business, I slept on a rollaway bed. And I slept on a rollaway bed from the time I was 13, 14 years old until the time I was 18 years old, and I moved out and got my own motherfucking bed. But in my room, I had a dresser, I had a bed, and every once in a while I was allowed to have my stereo in the room. But most of the time, because he didn't like my music, or I listened to rock music, hair bands, heavy metal, Metallica, stuff like that. But that wasn't as good as his 50s bands and shit like that. Mine was all devil music. I wasn't allowed to have things like stereos and shit like that in my room, so I pretty much had a bed and a dresser in there, and I pretty much, if I was at home, I pretty much stayed in my room. The same thing with my sister. She may call me crazy now, but I was there. I remember when we could be just out in the living room, we have MTV playing, we're doing our thing, we're having a good time. We hear the rumble of that car pulling in. My sister would say, "The prick is home." The TV would go off, and we would scatter to our rooms. She would be in her room, I would be in my room, and that's where we would stay, because we just didn't want We didn't want to come out. I mean, shit, my sister couldn't walk across the fucking living room without my father wanting to check her for track marks. My sister wasn't doing drugs. She didn't do drugs. You know what I mean? I gotta say she's a fucking asshole, but, you know, what's right is right. She wasn't doing no fucking drugs. You know what? You know, and I'm speaking directly to my father right now. You know what, you fucking cocksucker? You should have been more worried about 3 boys standing at her fucking door calling her fatty and whale and shamu and all that fucking shit, which could have fucking destroyed her self-confidence and her self-esteem and all that, rather than fucking checking her for track marks and doing more damage to her, you fucking cocksucker. But that's alright. She thinks she's gonna get some fucking money out of you, so she's fucking hanging around. She wants to have a relationship with her grandmother, which, let me tell you something, since I fucking cut your ass out, I don't get to see my grandmother. My aunt doesn't want anything to do with me. Cousins, anybody like that that I knew on your side of the family wants absolutely nothing to do with me. Friends, anything. And there's a reason. And the reason is you, because you did this shit. So I don't know, man. That's all I got to say on this video. So I'm sure I'll make another one and I'll get more in depth on this. So I'll see you out there.